Good afternoon, class. Picture yourself back home in your bed, warm and comfortable, after a great night of sleep. You get up and you go downstairs, and you can smell it in the air. Your mom's cooking pancakes. You go in there, you sit down, excited with a smile on your face, ready. She brings you the pancake. She brings you the pancakes, and she hands you that bottle of syrup. Who's on that bottle of syrup? Who's on that box of pancake mix on the counter? For many of us around America, it was Aunt Jemima. Many U.S. citizens aren't aware of the controversial history the brand Aunt Jemima has, and some are aware for the wrong reasons. As citizens of the United States, we owe it to ourselves as well as fellow citizens who might experience discrimination and misrepresentation to address these issues and eradicate the bad implications and promote the good ones. As young Black men who are self-aware and want to better Black and brown communities, I think it's important that we discuss misrepresentation when we see it. The artifact we chose to analyze was the brand Aunt Jemima. This artifact reinforces the hegemonic ideology of white domestic supremacy and features the standpoints of white consumers and corporations and advertisers. Our imagined artifact rivals this viewpoint. In this following speech, I will analyze our existing artifact, Aunt Jemima, and explore a contrasting imagined artifact. So I'll lead off with our existing artifact. Aunt Jemima is an American commercial brand for the Quaker Oats Pancake Company. Aunt Jemima is depicted as a dark-skinned, obese woman with glowing white teeth and her head wrapped in a knotted cloth scarf. She is often associated with the mammy stereotype. It is said that Aunt Jemima is meant to symbolize the domestication of Black women during slavery. Among other things, these ladies pretended to be content and joyful while acting as surrogate mothers to slave owners and their children. The brand Aunt Jemima was originally created in 1889. The inspiration came from a minstrel show, which is a white person performing in blackface. This particular show, the main character was based on the mammy stereotype, a devoted Black servant to white households who was cheerful and loyal. Hence came along Aunt Jemima. The brand Aunt Jemima admits a hegemonic ideology that supports racism, glorifies racial hierarchies, as well as supports the oppression and domestication of Black women. The whole brand Aunt Jemima is rooted in racism. You heard me say earlier that they gave Aunt Jemima the mammy stereotype, which means much more than what some may see at face value. They painted a Black woman as a cheerful, loyal, and devoted servant to white households during a time where we were exiting slavery, which not only glorifies it, but is also a total slap in the face to every now free Black woman in America. Then came the mass production of their product, which served as a daily reminder of the roles Black women played in the era of slavery. Over the decades, they have altered her appearance and updated the character, removing the scarf and modernizing her clothing, softening certain stereotypical features, but the overall foundation of the racist appeal is still there. There is so much symbolism in the brand Aunt Jemima. The exaggerated facial features, like the nose, mouth, and ears, is usually how white Americans back then would depict Black folks when they wanted to make jokes of them. Also, around that time, white Americans wanted to avoid respecting Black Americans by not calling them Mr. and Mrs., so they would specifically call Black women Aunt, reinforcing the disrespectful nature behind the brand Aunt Jemima. This hegemonic ideology caters to the white consumers heavily and helped their standpoint in which the white consumers are clearly the dominative group here in the context of Aunt Jemima. However, it hurts the standpoint of Black women because they are the marginalized group here. It also hurts Black Americans, male and female, because it promotes and glorifies racism and racial hierarchies. Now my partner Zamir will deliver his contrasting ideology.
Now that we've examined the ideological work of Aunt Jemima, I want to shift us into imagining what a counter artifact could look like. One that directly challenges the harmful narrative the original branding created, and instead offers a representation grounded in truth, respect, and cultural ownership. That imagined artifact is called Emerald's Kitchen, honoring our culinary lineage. Our imagined artifact is a modern food brand and 30-second commercial titled Emerald's Kitchen, created by the fictional culinary historian and chef Dr. Emerald Milan Fox, who goes by Emerald Milan. Instead of a caricature, Emerald is presented as a skilled expert, a black woman chef standing confidently in her own kitchen, taking ownership of a cultural legacy that has too often been misrepresented or stolen. The commercial features Emerald preparing a dish, handed down through generations, narrated with the line, "My great-grandmother cooked because she had to. I cook because her brilliance deserves to be honored." This instantly shifts the tone from nostalgia for servitude to pride and heritage. This imagined artifact operates in the same medium as Aunt Jemima, food packaging and a commercial. So it works as a true ideological counterpoint. Dr. Emerald Milan Fox, a fictional black woman, chef, and culinary historian, but most importantly, a queen, a black queen. General food consumers with an implicated audience of black families and black women whose culinary expertise has been minimized. Grocery store packaging, televised commercials, and online video mirroring the visibility and influence the original brand once held. This maintains structural equality. The counter artifact meets the original in the same cultural arena. My imagined artifact directly counters Aunt Jemima's ideology of white supremacist domesticity by promoting a counter ideology of black agency, cultural ownership, and historical truth-telling. Where Aunt Jemima reinforced nostalgia for plantation labor and the happy servant stereotype, Emerald's Kitchen reframes black culinary labor as a site of expertise, innovation, and legacy. Counter ideology is rooted in the idea that black people deserve to define themselves, especially in the cultural spaces they help build. Instead of presenting black women as cheerful helpers in someone's kitchen, Emerald's Kitchen places them at the center of their own stories, the center of their own craft, and most importantly, the center of their own intellectual contributions. As food scholar Syke Williams Forson writes, black women's labor in the kitchen has always been a site of both survival and creativity. My imagined artifact uses that perspective as its foundation. In the existing artifact, Aunt Jemima is a mammy image, headscarf, exaggerated smile, servile posture, outdated clothing, coded as happy to work for white families, and plus, it was used to show that black people enjoy being segregated in the South. But by contrast, Emerald Milan is presented as a professional in contemporary chef's attire, confident in her craft, filmed at high level, establishing equality, and shown using tools and techniques symbolizing skill, not servitude. This change removes the ideology of cheerful servitude and instead advances the idea that black women are knowledgeable keepers and innovators. It visually communicates agency and authority. As cultural critic Marilyn Mannering notes in her book, Slave in a Box, images like Aunt Jemima were designed to comfort white consumers by simplifying black womanhood. Emerald's Kitchen refuses that simplification entirely. Aunt Jemima uses nostalgia, warm colors, cozy settings, and old-fashioned motifs to create a fantasy of the plantation home where black labor was supposedly joyful. Emerald's Kitchen uses a tone of reverence and authenticity, showing archival style images of real black women cooks, family recipes passed down across generations, and most importantly, a voiceover grounded in truth and acknowledgement of black people. For example, Emerald states in the commercial, "Our food was never about servitude, it was survival, memory, and mastery." This is not nostalgia, it is reclamation. It corrects the historical record instead of distorting it. The imagined artifact elevates black women, especially those whose labor was historically devalued, by acknowledging them as the architects of American cuisine, where Aunt Jemima trivialized black cooks by reducing them to a market mascot. Emerald Kitchen names their contribution, honors their brilliance, centers their humanity, and refuses white comfort at the expense of Black truth. It empowers the very communities shaped by the original artifact and restores dignity to the cultural traditions. It empowers the very communities and cultured by the original artifact and restores dignity to the culinary traditions they built. By reshaping both the imagery and narrative surrounding Black labor, Emerald's Kitchen demonstrates the power of counter artifacts to challenge and transform long-standing ideological harm. In creating Emerald's Kitchen, I've shown how an image artifact can directly counter the racist ideology embedded in Aunt Jemima by replacing counterculture with culture, distortion with accuracy, and with servitude, with self-representation. Through revised visuals, truth-telling, and respectful representation, Emerald's Kitchen promotes a counter-ideology of Black agency and cultural ownership that dismantles the harmful narratives sustained by the original brand. Ultimately, the imagined artifact reminds us that representation is not just about who we see on the box. It's about who gets to tell the story. And when Black people reclaim that voice, the narrative finally becomes whole. Thank you.